New Zealand once banned a book, not because it was dangerous, but because it revealed too much. In 1924, a book called The Truth About New Zealand was pulled off shelves within weeks of release. It exposed government mistakes, land corruption, and secrets from early settlement days that embarrassed powerful people. Copies were ordered to be destroyed, and the author mysteriously disappeared from public records soon after. Only a handful of originals survived, hidden in private collections. And to this day, some historians claim the missing chapters discussed events that still aren't taught in schools. The strange part, New Zealand's official archives barely mention the book at all, as if it never existed. A banned book, or a truth someone wanted erased, follow for more hidden NZ history.
In ancient days it would have been a crime to publish the sacred knowledge of my race, and for such an offence a chief would have been stripped of noble rank. But in the course of my travels I have found that the people of all civilized countries regard the New Zealand Maori as a native, i.e., a savage. The English may talk of him as a fine man, but in their hearts they consider the Maori an inferior, and a member of a backward race. It is desirable therefore to establish the facts of Maori culture. As an example of the great need to clear up wrong conceptions I may quote from the article on the Maori in the Encyclopaedia Britannica 11th edition, which may be said to reflect the mature opinions of European and American scientists. Every Maori was a soldier, and war was the chief business and joy of his life. Tribal wars were incessant. The weapons were wooden spears, clubs, and stone tomahawks. Cannibalism, which earned them in earlier years a terrible name, was generally restricted to the bloodthirsty banquets which always followed victory. The Maoris ate their enemies' hearts to gain their courage, but to whatever degree animistic beliefs may have once contributed to their cannibalism, it is certain that long before Captain Cook's visit religious sanction, for the custom had long given place to mere gluttonous enjoyment. Maoris had no regular marriage ceremony. Polygamy was universal, and even today they are not strictly monogamous. The power of the husband over the wife was absolute, but women took their meals with the men, were allowed a voice in the tribe's affairs, and sometimes accompanied the men into battle. To one who knows the real facts, this is an inaccurate and degrading travesty of the facts of Maori life, and the insult is not wiped out by the patronizing statement shortly following that the Maori is well liked, and has been described as the Britain of the South. In no circumstances are Maori science and history ever considered by Europeans in the same manner as a learning of their own civilization. What attention has been paid to them has been generally in the nature of the condescending study of a race of ignorant cannibals. Had the Maori scientists realized this sooner, I am sure they would have consented to have the sacred legends recorded, and I am counting on the approbation of my seniors in New Zealand for what I am now doing. In Miss ETTIE ROUT the Maori have at last found a reporter and legend carrier who will accurately and honorably record the facts and feeling embodied in Maori legends, and I hereby declare that all the evidence not ascribed to others or known previously to the reporter, has been furnished to her by myself as some of the sacred legends actually handed down generation after generation by selected members of the Maori nobility. Finally, I wish to record the fact that my knowledge of these sacred legends was conveyed to me chiefly by the following Maori rangitiras and tohungas: Rangiteroriri, Tutanekai, Hehe, Tamarangi, Tikiteri, Ratiati, Aheuheu, and others. 2 nations remained in Assyria, but 10 crossed the Caucasus until they reached a cold climate, i.e., the Black Sea, where most turned westward and journeyed across Europe. During this migration 3 of the nations broke off from the main body and either settled in the lands through which they were passing or migrated in other directions. Thus it came about that representatives of only 7 nations eventually reached Portugal, Potuquera. During their passage across Europe, the brown Maori had encountered the white Maori, gigantic men and fierce fighters, who would not allow them to settle peaceably in any numbers. 5 of the 7 nations, and certain noble women of the other 2 nations, sailed west from Portugal and reached Mexico, Hawaii Nui, where they organized themselves into one strong nation, built the 7 cities referred to in their legends, and remained for many generations. Of the 2 nations left in Portugal, some members migrated to Morocco, others to the Canary Islands and elsewhere, and others remained in Portugal. The settlers in Mexico had long been in possession when the great white Maori came down from the north and made war upon them. When Mexico fell, the brown Maori were scattered in defeat, some going north, others to the islands in the Gulf of Mexico, others to different parts of Central America, Yucatan, etc. Many settled in Jamaica, Hawaii, or founded colonies in Guyana, Guinea, and countries afterwards said by Europeans to have been inhabited by the Arawak tribes. Those not dispersed gathered themselves together and went south, reaching Peru, which then included a great part of South America. There they established themselves in the new and uninhabited land, fighting wild beasts and building up their civilization. At last a great council was held at Titicaca, and one nation, the Arawa, decided to migrate still further west. They established a colony on Easter Island where they took roots, seeds, and birds with them, especially a great stock of tubers taro, kumara, for cultivation in the new land they hoped to find, the Promised Land. Supplies of food ran short on Easter Island, but luckily starvation was averted by the arrival of immense flocks of birds manu. Tara, which came from the American mainland, as plover still go to Hawaii, a distance of 3,000 miles, and the Godwit cross from New Zealand to Siberia. It should be mentioned that Titicaca became a holy place to the Maori, because it was there that the sacred staff had sunk right into the earth and the stones of remembrance were commemorated by the Maori tiki, an ornament composed of the sacred life symbols, to be described at greater length in another portion of this book. At Easter Island Pito o Te Whenua, the Maori erected gigantic statues and other memorials were raised at different islands between Easter Island and New Zealand. The strong northern currents prevented the Maori traveling directly westwards, and when they reached Tahiti some of them sailed yet further north to Hawaii. Others made their way southwards and westwards, journeying through the South Sea Islands where they met for the first time, since leaving Assyria, the Black Maori, quite a different type from themselves, physically, mentally, and morally. Unlike the white Maori, the Black Maori did not fight whomsoever they came across. Passing through the South Sea Islands and leaving monuments to mark their passage, the brown Maori ultimately reached New Zealand, some 800 strong, in 7 canoes, arriving separately in different parts of the country. There they found the so-called Moriori, or Maoriuri, the descendants of the pre-human ancestor. It was assumed that these people had migrated eastwards and were the children of the dawn, whereas the Maori had always traveled towards the setting sun and were people from the farthest ones. There is some misapprehension regarding the canoes of the ancient Maori. The following description from Tregear's dictionary, sub voce Arawa canoe, may be useful. This canoe is said to have been built in Rarotonga, a place on the other side of Hawaii. It is doubtful if this is the island now known as Rarotonga, the canoe being made of totara, a tree which does not grow in Harvey Islands. The name of the forest where the trees grew was Tawhiti Nui, and they were dragged down the river Hauhau to the sea. The builders are said to have included in their number Rata, Wahairoa, Nahue and Parata. It was the first canoe completed, then followed the Tainui, Matatua, Takatumu, Kuruhaupo, Tokomaru and Matafaurua. These canoes were all hewn with the celebrated greenstone axe made from Te Potini, the stone fish of Nahue. The Arawa was a very large double canoe with a house on deck and was rigged with a foresail, mainsail and mizzensail. The Arawa was burnt at Maketu by Raumati. West, not from the east as Europeans have mistakenly guessed. The Maoris claim to have inhabited Easter Island, and erected the monuments there, is profoundly interesting in view of the discussion among European and American savants as to the origin of those monoliths. The crests of the 12 nations in Assyria were as follows: 3 reptiles Narara, crawling creatures turtle Tuatara ilk tuna serpent Tanifa, 3 fishes Ika, swimming creatures, creatures of the water mermaid Ika, in this sense meaning an amphibian whale Ika Nui, big fish Ika Iti, small fish 3 beasts Kuri, land creatures lion Kuri, quadramana. Ortoa, strong, brave animal dog Kuri Iti, long, narrow animal bull or unicorn Kuri Nui, a large horned animal, possibly rhinoceros 3 birds Manu dove or pigeon Manu Kareri, or ma plover Manu Ka, the edible bird eagle Manu Nui, the large bird. In addition to these crests the Maori had the 3 signs of the house of Thi Ra Iwi Israel, or the children of God. These signs were the sun Ra, the moon and the heavenly bodies Te Aupo and the earth E Papa. The sun was the divine creator, the moon was the great spirit, and the earth was the god of nature, so the Maori were alike the children of the sun, the children of heaven, and the children of man. These 3 made the Trinity represented by the 3 fingers seen on Maori carvings, indicating intellect, character and physique. The different nations or houses were organized and reformed many times, hence where any considerable numbers of Maori migrated or established themselves, representatives of many different crests would be found. The sacred legends say that while many members of the House of the Bull went to Mexico, some dropped out while crossing Europe, and thus may have traveled even farther afield. That all the voyagers to New Zealand were members of one house is definitely proved by the fact that they all have the same crest, the turtle. As already stated, all the members of the 10 nations did not migrate from Assyria to Portugal and the West. Certain parties remained in the various countries through which the migrants passed, and the subsequent migrations with their consequent intermarriages scattered those sections of the brown Maori in many directions. But the main body of each nation can be definitely traced by their crests and signs. The 2 nations which remained in Assyria were the mermaid and the plover, 10 nations migrating being the turtle, the serpent, the eel, the fish, the whale, the lion, the dog, the bull, the dove, and the eagle. The 3 nations which fell out en route were the whale, the lion, and the eagle, leaving 5 nations to go to Mexico, the turtle, the fish, the dog, the bull and the dove. To these must be added women from the eel and serpent nations. Of all these, as already mentioned, only the turtle, or Arawa, nation reached New Zealand. The traditional descent of the Arawa Maori is from Ihaka Isaac, who was the son of Aperahama Abraham, and the son of Ihaka was Hakopa Jacob, from whom came the 12 houses of ETTIE ROUT iwi. The word iwi means literally the ribs of a house or of a man, etc. Therefore, iwi means the people. ETTIE ROUT is obviously Israel, and the ROUT iwi is Abai asks the Israelites. Ra in Maori means the sun, or the sun god, or god, and the in Maori means the origin or the source. The term the ROUT iwi means the people of the sun god or the people of God. The earthly country from which these people came was called Ihiria, Assyria, which is an abbreviation of the ROUT iwi. An alternative spelling of Ihiria insisted upon by some of the Maori nobles is Thirai. The following extract from Maurice Fishberg's The Jews, a study of race and environment, throws an interesting light on this legend of the migration across Europe and the Assyrian origin. Historical evidence goes to show that there were already Jews in South Russia before the destruction of the temple. This has been attested by inscriptions unearthed in various parts of the northern shore of the Black Sea. They are said to have come thither mostly from the Byzantine Empire and also from the Caucasus. In the latter country they have been even before the present era, and there is considerable evidence showing that many Jews have migrated from the Caucasus to South Russia. This puts a completely different aspect on the question of the origin of the Jewish types met within Eastern Europe. There remains yet to be described another group of Jews, the Karaites, who, though they are considered only partly Jews, yet claim that they are the real descendants of the ancient Hebrews. These people are now found mostly in Russia, while small colonies are also found in Galicia, Turkey, and Egypt. They are followers of pure Mosaism, and do not consider the Talmud as authoritative. The founder of this sect was one Anan, who lived at the end of the 8th century. They were at first called Ananites, but later adopted the name Karaites. The New Zealand Maori also had the name Kara'ite, the Maori equivalent of our Christ, to Karite, in Maori, is Jesus Christ.